It's hard to make scary games for a console with motion control, and while they did succeed at some points, that's not what this video is really all about. Well, I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I show you some creepy Nintendo Wii games.
Second Opinion Games.
First up, Haunted House. This was a sequel/reboot to Atari 2600 game. Yeah, you thought Duke Nukem Forever took a long time to come out. How about this one, where you play as a guy who walks around a haunted mansion, or a girl, because you could decide either one, and then you search different areas looking for keys to open up more rooms, all the time being attacked by ghosts and mice and other little critters. How do you kill the ghosts? Well, you light fireplaces. Luckily, this mansion is absolutely huge because there are fireplaces almost everywhere. However, there are some rooms where you're completely defenseless, but luckily you could pick up lights like matches or candles, or later in the game, cell phones. This is a short experience, beaten in about 3 hours, and it's probably just good enough to be played. Owen Chaparra Bikini Zombie Slayer is the total opposite of this game. Not in quality, on that it's pretty much on par, but in graphic subject matter where super hot chicks run around and slice up zombies, usually done by waggling the Wiimote with an up and down motion vigorously. Sometimes you can whip it side to side, but it's mostly just up and down. I got a feeling that they did this on purpose because that's what people would be familiar with this type of game would be most used to. Now, it does have a little bit of gameplay depth. You could always power up your characters in certain ways based on how you did in the level itself. And there's also unique levels to the characters that you could be playing. There's also cooperative play, so you and a friend can both be waggling it up and down together. Why would you want to do this? Well, you probably wouldn't. A matter of fact, it's most likely that this game is going to be hidden all the way in the back of your closet because you don't want anyone to know that you have it. Pandoras Tower is a far better quality game. Matter of fact, I believe this is one of the masterpiece games that are completely stuck on the Wii. I would love to see a sequel or maybe a reboot done. Anyway you look at it, this game needs to come to modern consoles. But sadly, playing it with a controller is nearly impossible. The game itself actually lets you use the GameCube controller to play this game, but it doesn't really work all that well. No, you have to use the Wiimote and nunchuck because you have to point the screen for that chain that's like a whip that also slaps around enemies, and you have to retract it by whipping your hand backwards. It's very satisfying to kill like everything in this game, and also sometimes there are giants that you have to slay, and then you have to bring that meat that you got from the giant that you just slayed back to your girlfriend, where then she consumes it raw, and it is creepy as all heck. That's why this game deserves to be here, because the overall concept is mind-numbingly crazy. If you're gonna have a showdown with a crap ton of monsters, you better bring a gun. That's where House of the Dead 2 and 3 are here. And 3 especially, because I was never even a little bit scared of this game. Sure, there are occasional jump scares that will jump down at you, but the whole game looks too polished. I'd much rather be playing 2 and the original version of 2 that's on here, which lets you search up and down for power-ups for your next playthrough. Sometimes they could be completely weird power-ups, so you want to make sure you search everywhere. This is actually one of my biggest downfalls here, because I'm trying to shoot power-ups more than I'm trying to save the people, or more than I'm trying to kill the zombies that are on the screen, so I end up dying because I'm greedy, okay? I'm just a little bit too greedy for this game. Also, it is freaking hilarious listening to the dialogue from the people that you're trying to rescue, and I think this game is full of charm, and I think it's about even for playing this here or on my beloved Dreamcast. But the Dreamcast didn't have a game that was very much like Point Blank from the arcade and the PlayStation 1. So then I picked up Cocot Magic Circus, and this is exactly what I was looking for. Well, not exactly, because Cocot itself is a very generic game character. He has racing games and platformers, but luckily this shooting gallery game is spot on. It's exactly what you think a Point Blank game should be, only on the Wii and without the license. It gives you different missions to accomplish, usually involve shooting a whole bunch of things on screen, or maybe even taking just one shot to clear a board by hitting a target. And also there are power-ups or power-downs flying around everywhere. The sad part is you don't know which one you want to actually shoot, so you try to ignore them all. And when you do hit one, well then everything goes crazy weird. If you fail a mission, well then your super hot gremlin fairy gets kidnapped by a giant circus clown. So yeah, I'm pretty safe to say that this is an incredibly creepy game, even if it is a crapload of fun. And in black, Alien Crisis is another light gun shooter game, only this one done with the MIB license. It's not a full-on gallery shooter though, no, it's more like a third-person shooter, but just a little tiny bit as you could run back and forth. There are levels that is entirely gallery shooting where you shoot from a car and you just blow apart aliens, and it is really satisfying, if not just a little bit on the boring side. Movie-based games generally are not meant to hold your interest for too long, and even though this one is slightly above average, it really didn't hold my interest for that long at all. Caroline is a game that I was interested in based on a movie, because the movie was freaking creepy as all heck, and I couldn't wait to see what they did with the license. And when I got it, oh my god, this game is meant for children. Like, Dora the Explorer is more advanced than this game based off of a really creepy movie that children should not have been watching. I don't know what I'm even doing here. I spent an hour with it, collecting and looking at blue things to tell my dad to just have me move stacks of newspapers around. This is worse than a walking simulator, and I recommend everyone stays away from it. Ghostbusters, now we're getting into it good. The Xbox 360 and the PS3 had a great version of this game, but this has waggle controls. Now, why was it dumbed down so much in the graphics? Well, because it came out in the Wii, and then they could also port this very easily over to the PS2, which was selling like crazy at the time. It would have been stupid to leave that money on the table, and they very much did not. And overall, I think I'd rather be playing the Wii version, not because of the stylized graphics, but because the controls are just a lot more fun. I like grabbing the ghosts, whipping them around, slamming them down, and then trapping them. I actually start to feel like a real Ghostbuster. The story is almost exactly the same, all done with great voice acting, and this is a total masterpiece. It's just a shame that not many people have played it because, you know, the Xbox 360 and the PS3 versions exist still. Scooby-Doo First Fright. This talking dog has a lot of stinkers in its catalog. Luckily, this is one of the better games. A matter of fact, I think it might be the very best Scooby-Doo game. Instead of being scared of everything like Scooby normally is, Scooby and Shaggy could actually kick a whole lot of butt, because essentially this whole game is a total beat 'em up where you run around just kicking the crap out of everything. You do pick up clues to solve mysteries, kind of, sort of. At the end of the chapter, you can pick who you think was the person causing all of the ruckus, and I don't know what happens when you get it wrong because they spell it out for you pretty clearly who's behind everything. Also, it has some puzzle elements in the game that is unique to each of the characters that you could be playing as. For example, Fred can lift really heavy things. Scooby can crawl through tight spaces. Velma can do a whole bunch of nerdy stuff, and Daphne can ride poles. Seriously, that is her power. She could just shimmer up a pole like a total champ. Well, I gotta give it to them. They're right on the nose with this one. And also there's tons of collectibles and costumes to change into, and the boss battles are fun where it's not just run at them and kill them with everything you got. This is the way a good beat 'em up should be crafted, and even though it's not spot on with the license, I wouldn't have it any other way. And the very best part, if you have an SNES Mini, you could actually use the Super Nintendo controller to play the entire game from start to finish with a friend because it's co-op at the same time. This is torn right off. Mushroom Men's Spore Wars is another beat 'em up, this time in third person. It doesn't have that Scooby-Doo money, so there's no voice acting here, but what you do have is an incredible open game where you hack and slash your way through all the levels. Also, your guy is like Jedi trained, so he actually has some force powers here, and taking on massive rats and star-nosed moles, boy are those things creepy as all heck, and this game will freak you out and also amaze you because of what they did with such little money. This is a terrific game, and I really love the aspect of being shrunk down and looking at things that normally I see as small in my everyday environment and thinking that they're massive here. This is one of the few collectathons that I actually like looking for every little thing, because I never know if my weapon upgrade will be really freaking awesome or total garbage where I just keep on using the same old staff that I always have. And the game seems to be reasonably cheap, so make sure you pick it up. Or maybe you want a game that's a little more adult. Well, how about Death Jr.? Yes, I know this looks like a Saturday morning cartoon, but trust me, it starts off easy with a whole lot of melee combat, and then it gets really hard, really quick, with precision jumping. Luckily, there's no lives here, so you don't die. You just go back to a checkpoint, so you're always pushing the story along farther, which you're also gonna really like, because the story is being, given to us like Saturday morning cartoons with lots of voice acting. And there's also guns, because why wouldn't you have guns? You could even collect extra parts to upgrade to give you more guns, and they get really creative, and then you just collect more and then blow apart more things. You could also play as two different characters here. They don't have different storylines. The stories are exactly the same, but because the game is so darn fun, you're gonna want to complete the game with each character, because they do have slightly different weapons. And seeing the more guns and the different weapons, well, that's worth it for me. Matter of fact, the game kind of reminds me of Alice Return to Madness on the Xbox 360, because you could stab a whole bunch of stuff with your stabby tool, and you could also pull out guns and kill everything. So how about we check out Alice in Wonderland, the movie? There are few things more terrifying than being in a strange world where you don't understand the rules on how anything works, and that's why Alice in Wonderland really freaks me out. Now, I never actually watched the Johnny Depp movie because I thought it looked a little too weird for me, but the video game is unbelievably well crafted. Even though this is done by Disney, they really made things as creepy as possible, which I guess that's kind of Disney's thing now. And you don't play as Alice. Instead, you play as her rodent friends, where there's a mouse that can hack things down to size, but your regular rabbit can also do that. He could also turn back time and sort of freeze time. There's another rabbit that could use telekinesis powers, which he can make things go up and down and fly all over, which then lets you take different paths that you could go in this game. There's also collectathon elements which are scattered everywhere, and the storyline is told beautifully. This whole game can be beaten in less than 5 hours your very first time through, but from what I've seen, it will hold your interest every moment of that time. Just because a game is meant for kids doesn't mean it can't be very adult, and that's what Alice in Wonderland has always brought to the table. Okay, one last game to creep you out, and it better be a good one. Well, check out Baro. Yeah, I probably said that word wrong because I don't know what having no money has to do with this entire game. Where you play as a guy who is probably dead and in some type of purgatory. He talks to an angel, goes into a dungeon, and then has to kill a whole bunch of monsters. Of course you're going to die because you have no idea what you're doing in this action RPG style game, where then you start back again and given a little bit more information, go in and die again. Now you think this would not be fun at all because of all of the death, but every time you die, you get a little bit more story. Also, because of the randomly generated levels in this game, it never feels stale, and you always want to know what else there is to explore, because you can pick up a crap ton of weapons in this game. Sometimes on the very first floor, you could pick up a sword that's one of the best in the game, and then never pick up any armor at all throughout your entire experience, meaning that you're going to die really fast. Also, there's a great risk versus reward here, because you're going to want to save some of your items that lets you recharge your energy for later levels, but if you never make it to those later levels, then what's the point of saving it? And when you die, you go back to the beginning of the game with nothing, and then you have to try to work your way through again. And there are creepy cutscenes scattered everywhere through this game. This is a darn right masterpiece, other than the fact that it plays like total garbage. I know it looks chunky and stupid, and it does play like that, but it is unbelievably addictive, and that creepy atmosphere just stays with you all night long. And that's why I think it is the creepiest game to play for the Nintendo Wii. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
Too slow!
This is a nightmare.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I didn't want to show off any obvious games like Resident Evil. Everyone knows about them, and let's face it, sometimes they can get a little bit scary. So I want to know in the comments down below, what is your creepiest game that you played on the Wii, and how much you liked it, and if it's worth picking up today. Most people completely wrote off this console as a total fad and a piece of crap, but I really tend to love it. So until later, I will see you again, guys.